The next artifact that I would like to present to you is a story found in a children's Bible. Children's Bibles in themselves are an interesting set of documents. There's a wide range of them. They do interesting things with the text. It's worth exploring which stories they keep, which stories they don't. This is one that's called the Jesus Storybook Bible. And the stated purpose of the book is actually to trace, and the stories is all weaving together. And so this particular book sort of focuses on that. It's written by Sally Lloyd Jones and illustrated by someone whose name I think is pronounced Iago. We'll notice as we look at it, there's one story in particular I wanted to look at. Part of what defines a worldview is its ability to tell a story of why things are the way they are. In particular, why suffering exists. So usually worldviews have how we got here, why bad things exist, and how things get better. And this story is a retelling of the Christian version of that, or the Christian answer to that second question: why are bad things the way that they are? In this book, it's titled "The Terrible Lie: Adam and Eve Lose Everything from Genesis 3." I'm not going to read the story, just because that's not really our purpose here. I will say that I enjoy this story a lot, but as a parent, had an interesting emotional reaction to reading it to my children. I didn't really want to read this story. I wanted to stick with a preceding story that is it's more pleasant to read. The first thing I notice about this story is the way in which the snake is situated. In the story, very briefly, Adam and Eve, which literally translates to Adam as man, and Eve is the name she gets later. It means mother, but at this point it's just the man and the woman, the first people, are tempted by a snake to do the wrong thing. They do the wrong thing, and everything falls apart. And this story then, boom, right on the front page is this oddly colored, very large, very menacing snake. It takes up half the page. You see the foreground here is about half the page. The man and the woman are a very minor feature of the picture. We'll look at the pictures for just a second, and then we'll go back and we'll look at the story just a little bit. You turn the page, and now I think this is the woman. It's interesting to me that she's pretty gender neutral, except for the hair. It's always interesting in children's stories, because in this story, the man and the woman aren't wearing clothes. That's part of the story, and it's always interesting to look at in children's books. How do they get around that? So you'll see back here they're covered in bushes, and here the snake is covering her chest, but she's not very gendered in the picture. But here they're interacting. Pomegranates are a traditional sort of representative for this forbidden fruit. One thing that you'll notice right off the bat looking at these pictures that's different from the toys we talked about earlier is that these pictures are not as safe as the other pictures. That there's a level of danger here. There's a level of worry. There's sadness on this page. On the second to last page, there's the animals are looking sad as the two people are minimized again. They're walking away. They're losing their place. And then in this one, they're embracing, but it's sort of a sad embrace. Again, and you have bright colors. It's very, I think it's very aesthetically pleasing to look at. I want to go back though and look at the text and sort of looking at this as a document that has text. Several things stand out to me, and I'm just going to hit a few of them for this project. But one of them is the emotional language that's laden throughout this. This is a story that unabashedly is about moving a child and a parent emotionally. It's a written text, remember, so a young child, the audience for this book, can't read it to themselves. They're read it by a parent, and I counted, and there are over 50 instances in 5 pages, which don't, half of which aren't text. In 5 pages, there are over 50 instances of emotionally laden language. Language like a beautiful new home, everything went horribly wrong, or went wrong, and God had a horrible enemy. Let's see here, a terrible lie. They now felt naked and wrong. And then at the end, there's this description of a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. There's an emotional cadence there, right? That's picking up as the description's going on, and that's interesting to me as a way of communicating the story through emotion. There's this idea in psychology called neural synchrony, which is where two people, when they're in a sort of motivational or emotionally synonymous place, begin to link neurologically. That is, that their neurons begin to fire at the same rate. Or if you put them in an MEG, their brains begin to hum in harmony with one another. There's a study in the comments below. There's a citation for a study where they put a mother and a daughter in a conflict situation, and then they brought them out and they had them both watch the video while they were in an MEG machine. And while they were doing that, the mother and the daughter's brains began to light up and to hum in frequency with one another. This has also been noted with sports teams, with like military groups. This ability to sort of, this tightly coordinated work produces a neural harmonizing. And I think that that's part of what's going on here, is this emotional language produces a harmony between the parent and the child. So thinking about how it positions the parent and the child, the parent is still the giver of information, is still the sort of instructor in the faith. They're the ones reading the story. But there's a way in which they're both being invited to participate. This was, I can tell you, as a parent, reading this story to my child was a very emotional experience. I think more for me probably than for her. And so the text pulls the parent into that relationship with the child. The goal of this story really is I think, to instruct the parent in how to present the stories of the Christian faith to their child in a way that the child will understand. The next artifact that I want to show you is a cross. This is a cross from my home. It's an Ethiopian Orthodox cross. I have some family members that are Ethiopian. My sister used to live in Ethiopia, and so she bought this cross for me and gave it to me. I've actually just noticed that it's chipped, which is sad. The cross is wooden. It's I really am a little bit pessimistic about its origin. I think maybe it's dyed this darker color to make it look like a pricier wood. But it is in the traditional style. But it's become a thing of identity. And I brought this in because this is something that parents bring into their homes, particularly in the South. You see crosses on people's homes everywhere. And a lot of times they're painted in ways that reflect a sense of identity, so that the cross becomes a symbol not of torture and not of sort of grim repentance, but a symbol of Christian identity and a symbol of personal identity. A lot of times you'll see them personalized. I've seen them with American flags painted on them. I've seen them with Georgia Bulldogs painted on them, I think, or at least UGA. And so when I think about the parent-child relationship, and I think about a child growing up in this context, there's this idea of identity. I think that the way that it positions the parent and the child is that this is a part of who you are. This is a part of your self-understanding. Sometimes in my therapeutic practice, I've asked children to draw pictures of their homes, and sometimes when you do that, children will draw pictures of their homes with a cross in there. This is part of who I am. This is part of how I conceptualize my home. Is that it has a cross in it.